Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. So today is going to be my second update, I believe, for my palette rotation series project that I started here on my YouTube channel. So if you haven't seen my introduction and my first update, I will link my playlist for this project down below if you want to go check those out first. But basic rules for this project, it's super simple. I randomly roll in 5 palettes each month, and my goal is just to get one use out of the palette and just create a full look with that palette. So I will be sharing the looks that I created the past month with the 5 palettes that I had in, and we will be drawing some new palettes and also talking about just some overall usage from my collection. So if that interests you, then keep on watching. Alright, so like last update, I want to start out by talking about some of my palette usage from this past month. So in April, I used a total of 32 out of 67 palettes, which is a definite improvement from last month. I think in March I only used 25, so a few more palettes I got to use. And out of the ones that I used, the one I used the most amount of times with a total of 4 uses this month was my Huda Beauty Nude Light palette. So here is what this one looks like on the inside. So just a super simple, easy, everyday palette for me. I absolutely adore this palette. It's probably definitely in my top 5 palettes in my entire collection. I just seriously love this color story, and the formula is really nice, and it's just so easy to use, and I just really enjoy it. So I did reach for it a few times. Still, 4 uses isn't a whole lot, but I am trying to get a fairly even number of uses across my entire collection, so 4 uses was pretty good for this palette for this month. And then I did hit pan on 2 shades in my collection. So the first one comes from my Bella Cosmetics Daisy Days palette. So the pan I hit is in the shade Evergreen right here. So here is a closer look of this shade. So just a little tiny pinpoint pan in there. I was mostly using this shade on a very small and narrow fluffy brush, so I was able to kind of pinpoint an area in there, but I am really happy to have another pan in my collection, and I knew I was close, and it only took me a couple more uses this month to get that pan. And then my second pan comes from another palette that I reached for quite a few times this past month. This is my ColourPop It's a Princess Thing palette. Thinking I Heart Revolution Princess Collection. But this one is from ColourPop, and I hit pan in the shade Fairy Godmother. So this makes my second pan in this palette. I already had pan in the shade Prince Charming, and now I have pan in the shade Fairy Godmother. So here is a closer look at this shade. So this one was really easy to just use all over the lid for everyday looks. Hope that's in focus there. But this one is a little bit more on the sheer side, especially compared to the other shimmers in this palette. So it did take a bit of building up on the lid, which is why I was able to hit pan. But I also have had this palette for a while and have used it quite a few times, so I'm not super surprised that I do have a pan in this shade now. So those are the 2 pans that I hit this past month. Now I will talk about the few palettes that I brought into my collection, and then we can get into drawing my new palettes for May. So I brought 3 new palettes into my collection this past month. These are all from the same brand, Beautiful Shellz Cosmetics. I have a couple videos up featuring some of these palettes. I did a first impressions on these 2 right here, and then a 3 looks on this one. And then they were kind enough to send me this palette for free, but I have not done a video with that one quite yet. but this first one is their Iris Chameleon Quad. And then we have the Peach Chameleon. And then lastly, we have the Love Is palette. So here is that one. And those are the only 3 palettes that I brought into my collection this past month. Still kind of a lot for getting 3, but I'm really happy I have these, so not a big deal to me. So I think those are all the numbers I wanted to go through. If I am forgetting anything, I will pop it up on the screen right now. I think I need to do pan percentage, but I can't think of what it is off the top of my head. So I will pop what that is right on the screen right now. And now we can get into talking about the palettes that I had in for April, and then we can draw in my palettes for May. Okay, so I have my 5 palettes that were in for the month of April, all stacked up right here. And I did use each of these at least one time. I used one of them twice. So I will just go through and show you the looks that I created with each of these palettes and just give my thoughts on them. So the one I want to start out with is my I Heart Revolution Cinderella palette. And this is the one that I used twice. So here is what it looks like on the inside. So I will insert a picture of the first look that I created with this. So for this look, I used the shades Cinders and Bruno in the crease and probably blended it out with Jacques. I created this look a while ago, so the exact steps I took aren't very clear in my head, but those were the shades that I used in the crease. And then I know I packed Glass Slipper all over the lid. That is one of my favorite shades in this palette. I really, really adore that shade. And then I used the shade Lucifer as a liner. I put Drizella on the lower lash line, just super close to the lower lash line, just for a very slight pop of color. And then did Prince Charming in the inner corner. And I absolutely loved how this look came out. I just felt so glamorous wearing it, and it did take a little bit of working with the shades to get the look to where it ended up, but I was just so happy with how it turned out, and it's definitely a look I can see myself creating again and again. And now I will show you all a picture of what the second look I created this past month looked like. So for this look, I went with more of the pinky shades. So I used the shade Anastasia through the crease and once again blended it out with Jacques right there and just created a nice blended look. And then I packed Tremaine in the inner and outer portions of my lid. And then I put a little bit of Cinders on top of that. And that just created a really pretty purple tone. And I actually really enjoyed what that turned out to look like. And then once again, I used Glass Slipper and I packed that one in the center of the lid, just as a nice shimmery pop. And I did really enjoy how this look came out as well. I did prefer the first look I created with it, but this one was also super pretty and it was just a super simple look for me to create this past month. So those were the 2 looks that I created with this I Heart Revolution Cinderella palette. I do really enjoy how they came out. This palette is a little bit on the trickier side to work with. The cooler tones in this palette just are a little trickier to work with. So using the pinks for that second look definitely performed better than the cooler grayish brown shades that I used in the first look. But overall, it's just a palette that I do need to continue to keep testing out and using because I do like, for the most part, the looks that I create with it. It just takes a little bit more time and effort to get there. Alright, the next palette I'm going to talk about is my Rude Cosmetics Roaring 20s Reckless palette, and I'm doing these in no particular order. But this is what this one looks like. So I will insert a picture of the look that I created. So for this look, I just used only a handful of shades. It was super simple, but I used Lindy Hop as my liner, winged it out, and then used Swanky to start blending it out. And then I used feathers to kind of blend it out more and just kind of packed that one into the crease a little bit and lightened up the lid where there wasn't any other shadow. And then I just put Jazz Night in the inner corner, and that was that entire look. But I really enjoyed how it came out. I am not the best at the smoky liner look, but it is something I do like to try and do every once in a while, and I am pretty happy with how this look turned out. So I really enjoy this palette. It's one that I am always excited to reach for. I only reached for it once this past month, but I have been reaching for it quite a bit in the previous months, and I just really always enjoy what my looks turn out to look like with this palette. So next up we have my Be Bella Sweet Sunflower palette, and here is what this one looks like on the inside. So I will insert a picture of the look that I created. So once again, just a super simple everyday look. I just reached for some of these yellow shades for the crease. I think I deepened it up with Honey Pot and Canyon as well. And then I just put Sweet Moment on the lid and then did Paradise in the inner corner. I didn't really go too bold with this palette this past month just because I really wanted to reach for a lighter yellow look. So I just wanted to do them through the crease and then did the cream on the lid. And I do really like how this came out. It's super simple and definitely a look that I can recreate many, many more times. So that is going to be the goal with that. But I do really enjoy these shadows. This is another palette that I don't get a whole lot of use out of, but when I do enjoy the looks that I create, especially with these yellow tones up here. Those are definitely my favorite, and I definitely prefer the mattes in this palette as well. As you saw, I did a basically all matte look except for the inner corner shade, just because like these yellow golds are not my favorite to wear on my eyes. So I typically tend to stick to the mattes in this palette, but it is a palette that I really do enjoy. Alright, next we have my Essence Salute Paris palette. And here is what this one looks like on the inside. So I will insert a picture of the look that I created. So this look is one of my favorites from this past month. I really like how it turned out. So I reached for these two matte shades to blend through the crease and to deepen it. And then I used this darker shimmer over here, kind of winged out in the outer corner, packed this one all over the lid, and then this one in the inner corner. And I think I might have used a couple of these other shades to blend as well, but those were the main ones that I focused on. And I was really happy with how this one turned out. This palette just always creates such nice, soft, romantic looks, and that is just why I love this palette, and I was really happy it got drawn into this project. So like I said, this is just a really nice everyday palette for me. It creates super soft, simple looks, and I really do enjoy it. And I am excited to continue to reach for it in the future months. So last but not least is my CoverGirl Peach Punch palette. and this one was the last palette that I used from the 5, and I am really not surprised about that. For some reason, I just do not reach for this palette. There is absolutely nothing wrong with it. I actually quite enjoy the formula of it and the performance of these shades, but for some reason, I just neglect this palette, and that is why I was super happy that it got rolled into this project, and I was able to create a nice look with it, so I will go ahead and insert a picture of that. So for this look, I used this darkest brown shade right here, packed that one all over my lid and blended it up into the crease, and then I used these few matte shades to also help blend it out. And then I wanted to do a little bit of a pink inner corner, so I tried taking this second shade right here and putting that in the inner corner, but I didn't really end up liking the tone of it, so I just packed some of this matte cream over it, and I think it turned out okay. That is one of the things that I am missing with this palette, is a nice inner corner shade, but it's not a huge deal. But overall, I am really happy that I was able to get a use out of this palette, even if it is just one use. It's more than I probably would have reached for it this month anyway. So I was really happy that it got pulled into this project and that I was able to get use out of this one and out of the other palettes that were in this rotation. So those were my 5 palettes in the rotation. Let me know what you guys thought of the looks that I created and what you might have done differently with each of these palettes. And we can just jump right into rolling in some palettes for next month. Alright, so now we can roll in my 5 palettes for the month of May. I cannot believe it's May already. It took me a minute to figure out what month it was going to be. But I have all of my palettes listed out on a little dock here. So I have 57 palettes to choose from for this month, so I will randomize 5 of them, starting with number 22, which is my Ulta Ravenclaw palette. Then we get number 34, which is my Huda Beauty Nude Obsessions Light palette. I love that palette. I've been using that one quite a bit lately, actually. Number 3 is my ColourPop It's a Princess Thing palette, another one I've been using a lot lately. 24, which is my I Heart Revolution Beauty and the Beast. I've been wanting to reach for that palette, so that will be a fun one. And lastly, we get number 6, which is my Wet n Wild Not a Basic Peach palette, which is definitely a palette I do need to pull out more often. So I'm going to go grab those and I will show you what they look like. Alright, starting up we had my Ulta Ravenclaw palette. So here is what this one looks like. This isn't really one that I reach for a ton in the summer. It's more of a winter color story for me, but I still really do love the blues in here. And it has some nice neutrals as well, so this one is definitely one that I will have no problem reaching for. Then we have my Nude Light palette from Huda Beauty, and here is what this one looks like. This is going to be another super easy one for me to reach for. Like I said, I've been reaching for this one quite a bit over the past couple of months. I'm working on trying to hit pan on this shade in here, so this will definitely offer me a good opportunity to work on that. And I am just really excited. This is going to be a fairly easy month for me, I think, because I absolutely adore all of the palettes that I chose, and they're ones that I have either been reaching for already this year or have been ones that I've been really wanting to reach for. Alright, then we have my ColourPop It's a Princess Thing palette. So here is what this one looks like. So you would have just seen this one when I was talking about the pans, but I'm super excited to get another use out of this, at least one more use out of it in this next month. This is one of my absolute favorite palettes in my entire collection, easily top 3, possibly top 2, and I just seriously love this palette. Alright, then we have my I Heart Revolution Beauty and the Beast palette. So I feel like I've gotten one of these I Heart Revolution Disney Princess palettes every month since I started this project, but I'm completely fine with that. These palettes are definitely ones that I don't reach for enough in my collection, and this one is one of my favorites out of the princess palettes from I Heart Revolution. So this will be a very good excuse to pull it out, reach for it, and get some use on it, even if it is just one use in the next month. So I'm very excited that this one got rolled in. And then lastly, we have my Not a Basic Peach palette from Wet n Wild. And here's what this one looks like. This is definitely one that I enjoy reaching for in the summer. So I'm very happy it got pulled. And it's one that I definitely do not reach for enough in my collection. So another good reason to have it in this project. And I am very excited about reaching for it this next month. So those are all 5 of my palettes for the month of May. I am incredibly excited about all of these. These are all palettes that I'm just super excited to reach for, so I definitely see myself getting some good use out of them in the next month, and I will be very excited to share my looks in the next update with these. So that will conclude this video. I hope you all enjoyed. If you did, be sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe so you don't miss out on any of my future updates or my uploads. I post a lot of eyeshadow related content, so if that interests you, be sure to subscribe. And with all of that said, I will see you all in my next video. Bye!